Welcome to Sign for the Times. The Society for the Involvement of Good Neighbours, known as SIGN, is a not-for-profit agency in Yorkton, Saskatchewan, Canada, that provides 24 social and community programs and services that fulfill its mission, provide leadership, programs and services that assist, support, and empower children, adults, and families to achieve lifelong success. SIGN believes that will lead to strong and caring citizens and communities. Our podcasts explore those programs and include conversations with those closely involved with SIGN and, in instances, people who have used the services of SIGN. My name is Dick DeReich. Encouraging and enabling youth to become more involved in the community and promoting their well-being are among the focuses of Youth Resilience, a relatively new project of SIGN. It grew out of a realization that there is a need to provide more proactive and preventive ways to increase mental well-being, decrease substance use, and reduce negative behavior among youth. The project works with youth ages 12 to 18 to build resilience and involve young people in activities and decision-making in Yorkton. Part of SIGN Life Skills, the project is led by community youth worker Darren Tanaiki, who took on the project last fall. The project has four main areas that it's concentrating on: community readiness and commitment, positive youth development, risk reduction, and effective treatment and support for youth with greater needs. Darren, we should point out that this is a two-year project, so not everything is going to happen all at once. That would be a challenge. But let's get some updates on where things are at as far as the goals for the first year. And I know one of the things that you have done is you've made contact with a lot of organizations in Yorkton, youth-oriented organizations. And I'm wondering what the reaction has been from those.
Well, it has been overwhelmingly positive. Year one of this project is really focused on the first goal, which is cultivate community readiness, energy, and commitment. So it's about getting the message out. And so in the fall, I had an opportunity to speak with a number of ministry organizations, community-based organizations about the idea of being part of the Yorkton Alliance of Asset Champions. And we have a commitment from 17 community-based or ministry organizations to be part of that. So those are organizations such as the Yorkton Public Library, SIGN's Family Support Programs, SIGN's PPP Positive Parenting Support, SIGN's Adolescent Group Home, both school divisions, Good Spirit and Christ the Teacher. I've met with the folks in the ministries of both social services and mental health and addictions, and they're both on board, as well as the integrated primary health services. Had a great meeting with recreation and community services here in Yorkton in the fall, and they're on board. And I had an opportunity to meet with City Council last week and tell them a little bit about the project. And City Council is behind this project 100%. And then Boys and Girls Club here in town, Big Brothers, Big Sisters, and the RCMP, the City Detachment. So I've been really, really happy with the community support. This idea of the 40 developmental assets had been around about 10 years ago in the community, and a number of these organizations were involved in the past. And so when they heard that we were, there was a project to help support youth resilience using the framework as the kind of the backbone of the project, these organizations all agreed quite readily to be part of the Yorkton Alliance of Asset Champions.
That's great, and especially with both education systems involved. I mean, we're talking about youth that are, by and large, in schools. So, do you have an opportunity to go into the schools and talk to students?
Yeah, this fall and here after Christmas, I kind of set up a schedule where I spent a week in every one of our schools, and I have to be I'm very grateful to the leadership of both school divisions, both at the division level and at the school level. And so I've spent, like I said, a week presenting on the assets and spending time with students in grades 6 to 12, talking about the power of the assets and the power of the assets to protect to youth, and getting them ready for our survey that will be taking place here soon, where we can collect data so they understand the importance of us collecting this information and then preparing them for the idea that I'm going to need them as part of a youth feedback group when we get all the data collected. I've been able to spend quite a bit of time in schools as well. I spend my mornings over at Dr. Brass working with a group of youth for an hour and a half in the morning, and I spend some time in Dream Builders in the afternoon working with some youth there. The project allows me, and the both school divisions have allowed me to spend quite a significant amount of time in the schools.
You mentioned survey. You're surveying or going to be surveying students in grade 6 to 12 in the Yorkton schools. Is that getting started? What's the status of that?
Yeah, I started last week. So we were able to survey the students at the Yorkton Regional High School. So we did that. The survey is a 58 question survey just based on questions to youth around, do they respond to rarely, sometimes, quite frequently, or all the times. And it's just, questions around some of the activities they're involved in or some of the things they believe is in regards to supporting their friends and how they feel about school and how they feel about the community. And so in the end, it will give us a really good report that will indicate the assets that our youth are identifying as having, and some of the asset categories that there may be lacking, which will, for year 2 of the project, allow us to create a community profile and a community plan to address maybe some of the areas that youth are identifying as asset categories that they're not strong in.
I was going to say, what will the surveys tell us? Will you get, in your opinion, and many of these surveys have been done elsewhere, I'm sure, does it provide a comprehensive overview? And do all the students tend to participate, or are we catching the ones that may be a little reticent to get involved in this?
I think we're going to have a very good cross-section demographics of students. So we started last week, and the percentage of students that actively were involved in the survey was quite high. It was probably around 80% of the students took part in the survey. And yeah, it is. And it's really optional. So as we've indicated to students, like, if you have no interest in providing this feedback, then there's no reason for you to take it. Like, we'll respect that, because the importance of us getting authentic data is more important than numbers. So if we get 80%, but it's 80% of the kids that really want to do this well, I think we'll get a good cross section. I was working in a school yesterday with some students working on the survey, and we did it in paper form because computers were just a little bit of a struggle, and it took them a little more time. But I was really pleased with their responses. Like, they took their time, and they were very thoughtful in providing good responses to the survey. The other thing is, what's really nice is, because we've purchased this survey from the Search Institute. After those results go into them, they have a crew of professionals that know how to purge surveys. Like, there's certain things that they look for in regards to responses that may not be authentic, or if there's a certain number of responses that aren't provided. We have professionals eventually purging it to where it's authentic, or what they believe is authentic based upon their professional experience, and then creating a really comprehensive report for us.
When will the last surveys be completed in Yorkton, and how long does it take then before you start to get some results that you can work with?
So I will be done all the surveys in the schools by Easter. Next week, I've got 3 schools I believe I'm doing next week, and then the following 2 weeks are pretty full bore, where I'm going into the schools and giving the surveys. So by Easter time, we'll have them done, and I would anticipate we will have all the survey reports by the time we get back from the Easter break. So the turnaround, I was quite pleased with. The first turnaround was quite quickly. I wasn't expecting the report quite as quickly, but we got that within about 4 days of doing the survey, and so the information that was in that initial report was very impressive, I guess, in regards to report writing. And so I will be really keen to see when we bring all of the schools and we get a community report.
So would it be premature for me to ask what you've seen so far as results, or do you want to wait until we get kind of everything aggregated?
Well, as far as specifics, it would be premature. But what is interesting as I go through the results, and I was involved with this survey 15 years ago when we did this, 10, 15 years ago. It's not surprising in regards to some of the responses that I'm seeing back. Like overall, when Search has done this survey, they indicate that there's about the average youth responds to saying they have about 18 of those assets. And so our first set that are coming back saying our youth are indicating that they have about 19 of the 40 assets. And so in our ideal range, we want to get to that 31 to 40. So youth identifying 31 to 40. So we're falling into that category, which identifies that we're going to have some work to do. Some of the areas, when we think about the fact that our youth haven't been engaged in community activities for the last 2 years, you can see a real decrease in some of those numbers, which aren't surprising just because of the pandemic. So I would say it's premature only because it's a couple of schools, but not premature. And I'm not surprised with some of the results that I'm seeing and the importance of the year 2 work going forward in creating some feedback from our youth to ensure that as we come out of this pandemic, we are providing our opportunities for resilience for our youth to develop that resilience and providing opportunities for them to feel like they are a major contributor to our community.
So that brings up another question. Will the community see the results, the aggregate results of the survey, or will we basically see it in how the program develops as a result of the survey?
My hope, and I haven't finalized this yet, but we're going to create a community profile. So within that community profile, it will be based upon all of the results. So you will see the results that come from that survey. And within that profile, we will identify what youth have identified as their strengths and the areas that they say they're lacking within those assets. So once we've created that community profile, then the plan comes forward. So the information that will be gathered will be available to anyone within the public to see within this community plan. My hope is also then to go out and speak to folks and say, let's break some of this stuff down. Like, it's really important, just not these community-based organizations either that traditionally work with youth, but I think all community members. We all have a stake in supporting our youth within this community. And I think we all have a stake in doing whatever we can to acknowledge where our youth are and how we can support them and use them as a resource to build a stronger community.
We don't have I assume at this point, we don't have a baseline kind of, to compare it to. This will actually form the baseline of where things are at this time. In the longer term plans, would you anticipate that another survey will be done somewhere down the road that shows how the impact of the program?
So the survey that I did select allows us to do a follow-up. And part of what I've indicated to schools is within the context of the survey, schools can choose to do this survey individually on their own again. Some of them have indicated to me that they're going to use this information to work on their wellness goal. So every school needs a wellness goal, part of their learning improvement plan. So they may do some intermittent surveys. You can do another survey every 6 months. And I would foresee by the end of this project, once we've created this community plan, we will want to do another survey to see if some of the areas that we focused on, we saw growth in.
School will be out, come June and out for the summer. Does the program continue over the summer? Is there activities planned for the summer?
I'm still working through that right now. So the majority of my time has been spent in schools, just because that's where I find our kids here. And if there's we have so many great community-based organizations that will be offering programming this summer. When I think about, what happens through our recreation and community services or Boys or Girls Club, if there's ways I can support those programs through the summer, definitely. I will do my best to help support, those organizations over the summer. I haven't planned any specific activities that would be specific to the life skills program at this point.
Where do we go from here after year one would end when? In the fall?
Year one technically ends July 31st. So
then with the new school year, we'll bring new activities as well.
That will really be an opportunity for me to work closely within the schools. So my plan is to work with each school and have a leadership team. And that leadership team within that school will be able to provide feedback around some of the data results. And then my hope is to create a citywide middle years leadership group based upon one or two representatives from each elementary school, and a citywide leadership group that would consist of possibly 3 or 4 from our 3 high schools here. And then some of those representatives would sit on that Yorkton Alliance of Asset Champions as well. Also, I've had some really good feedback from schools. So I've done actually 4 workshops in 4 different schools on asset building. The Everyone's an Asset Builder workshop. And so that happened at the end of January and beginning of February. And so those schools have indicated to me once they get their specific data back, they would like me to come back and do more professional development around how they can support their student-specific data in their schools.
Mm-hmm. Well, it looks like you're having a busy time, and we'll continue to have a busy time. Thanks, Darren, for updating us. We'll continue to check with you about this project and let the community know not just what's happening, but also what you're finding out as time goes on through the surveys and your personal contacts with the youth. We should mention that the Morris Foundation has provided funding for the first 2 years of the project. The foundation is managed by the family of George and Helen Morris. George Morris, of course, was the inventor of the Morris rod weeder and established his company, later called Morris Industries, in Yorkton way back in 1949. New Sign for the Times podcasts are published regularly. In upcoming podcasts, we will continue to talk with those who have been involved in Sign's various programs, including program managers, staff, and in some instances, clients. If you have comments or suggestions, please feel free to email communications@signyorkton.ca or use the contact options on our website at www.signyorkton.ca. We are also on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, all @signyorkton. Thank you for listening, and we will talk again soon.